The secret of your birth date. Unlocking the path to wealth and prosperity. Daniel had always believed that luck was something that happened to other people. You were either born lucky, or you weren't. Some people won the lottery without even trying, while others worked themselves to the bone and barely scraped by. That was just how life worked. Or at least, that's what he had always thought. It wasn't until his retirement that he started questioning things. He had spent decades being responsible, working hard, paying bills, raising his family. Now, in the quiet of his later years, he found himself wondering, had he been missing something all along? One evening, as he sat on his porch watching the sunset, he remembered a conversation he had with his grandfather many years ago. His grandfather had been a deeply spiritual man, always speaking about energy, karma, and the hidden forces that shaped life. Daniel, he had once said, your birth wasn't random. The day you were born carried a power that follows you for life. Most people never recognize it, but those who do, they unlock something incredible. At the time, Daniel had brushed it off as one of his grandfather's many stories. But now, as he sat alone with his thoughts, something about those words felt different. What if his grandfather had been right? What if there really was something hidden in the moment of his birth? Curious, he decided to visit his old friend Liu, a man who had once been a Buddhist monk and still carried the quiet wisdom of someone who had spent years searching for truth. If anyone could help him make sense of this, it was Liu. When Daniel arrived, Liu was already outside, tending to his small garden. He looked up, his eyes twinkling as if he already knew why Daniel had come. You have questions, Liu said simply. Daniel chuckled. I always do. But this one is different. Liu nodded and motioned for Daniel to sit beside him. They sat in silence for a moment before Liu spoke. Tell me, do you believe the universe is random? Daniel thought for a moment. I used to, he admitted. But now, I'm not so sure. Liu smiled. Good. That means you're ready to listen. He placed a small stone in Daniel's hand. It was smooth, warm from the sun. Imagine this stone represents the moment you were born, Liu said. At that exact moment, the stars were in a certain position. The air carried a certain energy. Time itself held its breath for just a second to welcome you into the world. Daniel studied the stone, feeling its weight in his palm. Most people go through life never realizing that their birth was more than just a date on the calendar. But in Buddhism, we believe that the moment of your birth carries a unique vibration, one that influences your path in ways you may not even recognize. Daniel frowned. So, you're saying some people are just born lucky? Liu shook his head. Not lucky, aligned. Some people are born on days when the energy of prosperity is strongest. If they recognize it, they can use it to attract wealth, success, and opportunities. But even those who weren't born on those days can still tap into this energy, if they know how. Daniel leaned forward, intrigued. How do you know if your birth date is special? Liu's smile widened. Ah, that is what we will discover together. Daniel sat back, his heart beating just a little faster. For years, he had believed that luck was something you either had or you didn't. But what if that wasn't true? What if he had been carrying something powerful inside him all along, something he had just never learned to activate? That night, as he left Liu's home, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change. Because for the first time, in a long time, he wasn't just waiting for luck to find him. He was ready to go looking for it. Daniel had always believed life was a series of random events. You were born, you worked hard, and whatever happened along the way, well, that was just fate. Some people had luck, some didn't. That was the way of the world. But after meeting Liu, he wasn't so sure anymore. It started with a simple question. Do you remember the day you were born? Liu asked him one evening, as they sat in the quiet of his home. Daniel laughed. Of course not. I was a baby. Liu shook his head, smiling. Not the way it looked, but the way it felt. The moment you entered this world, the energy of the universe shifted. The stars were in a specific position. The air vibrated with a certain frequency, and time itself paused for just a second. Because you arrived. Daniel had never thought of it that way. He had always seen his birthday as just a date on a calendar, a marker of another year gone by. What if I told you that your birth wasn't random? Liu continued. That the day you were born carried an energy, a vibration that has been guiding you ever since. Daniel frowned. Are you saying my whole life was decided the moment I was born? Liu shook his head again. Not decided, but influenced. Some people are born on days that naturally align with prosperity, intuition, or power. Others must work harder to activate their energy. But no one is without a path. Daniel's curiosity deepened. So, how do you know if you were born on a special day? Liu leaned forward. It's not about luck in the way most people think of it. It's about alignment. The moment you were born, the universe gave you a gift. A hidden energy that, if recognized and activated, can change the course of your life. But most people never see it. They go through life unaware, never realizing they are walking with a map they never learned how to read. Daniel felt something stir inside him. So how do I read mine? Liu's smile widened. You start by understanding that time is more than just a measurement. It is a current, a river of energy that moves through you, and certain days, your birth date for example, are like portals. They hold a specific vibration that influences your journey. If you were born on one of these powerful days, you may already feel it, even if you don't realize it yet. Daniel thought back to moments in his life when things had just happened, the good and the bad. Had there been a pattern? Had there been something deeper guiding him all along? Liu continued, his voice calm but certain. Those born on auspicious days often experience strange coincidences. Doors open for them unexpectedly. Opportunities seem to find them. But if they do not understand their own energy, they may waste these chances or push them away out of fear. Daniel swallowed. And if you weren't born on a lucky day? Liu chuckled. There are no unlucky days. Only days with different energies. Some people are born with an open door. Others must learn how to find the key. But make no mistake, everyone has a path to prosperity. The question is whether they choose to walk it. Daniel sat back, his mind spinning. For so long, he had felt like he was drifting, like he had been waiting for something he couldn't name. But what if he had been carrying the answer all along? What if, instead of waiting for luck to find him, he had the power to unlock it himself? For the first time in his life, he wondered if his birthday was more than just a number. Maybe it was a message. A secret the universe had been trying to tell him all along. Daniel never thought much about numbers. To him, they were just dates on a calendar, prices on a receipt, the numbers in his bank account, meaningless symbols. But after his conversations with Liu, numbers started appearing everywhere. The number 3, especially, seemed to follow him. It showed up on clocks, on street signs, even in the small things. 3 birds landing on his windowsill. 3 unexpected calls from old friends. One evening, as he sat across from Liu once again, he finally spoke up. I think I'm losing my mind, he admitted with a chuckle. I keep seeing the number 3. What does it mean? Liu didn't laugh. Instead, he studied Daniel with a knowing expression. You're not losing your mind, he said. You're finally noticing what was always there. Daniel frowned. So, what does it mean? Liu leaned back, taking a slow sip of tea before answering. Numbers aren't just numbers, he said. They're energy. They hold meaning, patterns, messages. The universe speaks through them. But most people never listen. Daniel felt a shiver run through him. I want to listen, he said. Liu smiled. Then let me tell you about 3 numbers that shape destiny. 3, 7, and 8. And when you understand them, you'll begin to understand yourself. The number 3, Liu explained, was the number of creation. It represented the balance of body, mind, and spirit. The sacred energy that allowed ideas to become reality. People born on the 3rd, 13th, 23rd, or 31st carried this energy. Whether they realized it or not, they are creators, innovators, dreamers, Liu said. They are meant to turn thoughts into reality. But if they ignore this gift, they become restless, stuck. Like an artist who has forgotten how to paint, Daniel thought about his younger self. The boy who used to dream of being a writer. The man who once had ideas for businesses he never started. He had always brushed them off as foolishness. But now, had he been ignoring his own energy all these years? You haven't lost it, Liu reassured him, as if reading his thoughts. The energy is still there. You just have to use it. When you do, doors will open. Daniel's mind was still reeling when Liu moved on to the next number. 7, Liu said, is the number of wisdom. The seekers, the spiritual wanderers. People born on the 7th, 17th, or 27th are drawn to deeper truths, to mysteries beyond what the eyes can see. Daniel thought of Mary, his late wife. She had been born on the 7th. She always knew things. When someone was lying, when something was about to happen. She had an intuition that he had never understood, and now he wondered if it had been part of her very essence. People born under 7 are guided by something bigger than logic, Liu said. But if they ignore it, life becomes confusing. They hesitate, doubt themselves. Their luck disappears, not because it left them, but because they stopped trusting it. Daniel felt something deep inside him stir. Had he spent his whole life doubting himself? Ignoring signs he should have followed? He didn't know, but he was starting to see his past differently. And then there is 8, Liu continued. The number of infinite wealth. Daniel leaned in. People born on the 8th, 18th, or 28th are deeply connected to material success, Liu said. They attract money, power, opportunity. But 8 is tricky. It is the number of karma. Whatever you give, you receive. If you hoard, if you act out of greed, you lose everything. If you use your wealth wisely, you never run out. Daniel thought of Henry, an old friend born on the 8th. He had once been incredibly wealthy, but he had lost everything. And when Daniel thought about it, Henry had never been generous. He had always been focused on taking, never giving. 8 is a lesson, Liu said. If you learn it, you will never struggle financially. But if you don't, no amount of money will ever be enough. Daniel sat back, his head spinning. So, what does this mean for me? He asked finally. Liu smiled. It means the universe has been waiting for you to remember who you are. Daniel left that night feeling different, as if something inside him had clicked into place. He didn't know exactly what to do with this knowledge yet, but he knew one thing. He would never look at numbers the same way again. Daniel never considered himself a lucky man. He had spent most of his life doing what was expected, working hard, paying bills, taking care of his family. And yet, luck always seemed to favor someone else. He had friends who stumbled into the right opportunities, who met the right people at the right time, who seemed to attract money effortlessly. But for him, life had always been an uphill climb. One evening, after weeks of thinking about his conversation with Liu, Daniel found himself walking back to his old friend's house. He had never been one to believe in mystical things, but something about what Liu had said stayed with him. Maybe, just maybe, there was something he had been missing all these years. When Liu opened the door, he smiled as if he had been expecting him. Come in, he said simply. Daniel sat down across from him. I want to learn, he admitted. If I was born with this energy you talked about, how do I use it? Liu nodded approvingly. Most people never even ask that question. He said, they move through life, waiting for luck to find them, never realizing that they have to wake it up first. He gestured for Daniel to follow him into a quiet room where a single candle burned. The air was thick with the scent of sandalwood. The first thing you must do, Liu said, is align yourself with the energy of your birth. You've spent decades ignoring it, so now it's time to listen. Daniel sat down on the cushion Liu placed before him. Close your eyes, Liu instructed. Take a deep breath. Now, picture the moment you were born. The very first breath you took. The first sound you heard. Imagine the universe welcoming you into existence. Daniel had never thought about that moment before. He had always seen his birthday as just another day, nothing special. But now, as he sat in silence, he tried to picture it. How the world must have been the first time he saw it. How the stars and the moon had been in their places. How time itself had paused just for him. Now, Liu's voice was soft but steady. Visualize your birth number appearing before you. If you are a 3, see a golden 3 glowing in front of you. If you are a 7, see a deep blue 7 shimmering like the night sky. If you are an 8, picture an infinite loop of energy, flowing endlessly, never stopping.